Dr. Velthra's hands trembled as she held the ancient data crystal. The six-fingered xenolinguist had spent 30 years studying dead languages, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Around her, the archaeological site on predecessor World 7 hummed with activity. Dozens of species worked together, carefully excavating the ruins of a civilization that had vanished 50,000 years ago. The predecessors had ruled the galaxy long before the current council existed. Their technology surpassed anything modern species could create. Their cities spanned entire continents. Then, without warning or explanation, they disappeared. Only ruins remained, scattered across 100 worlds. Velthra inserted the crystal into her translation device. Symbols flowed across her screen. Ancient words converted into galactic standard. Her secondary heart began racing as she read the contents. Expedition Leader Kim, you need to see this, she called out. Kim Seo-yun walked over, her boots crunching on the ancient stone floor. The human archaeologist had joined the expedition 3 months ago. She wiped dust from her glasses and looked at the screen. What did you find? Kim asked. A star map, Velthra said. But not just any map. Look at these designations. The holographic display showed a section of the galaxy. Hundreds of stars glowed in soft blue light. But one star, located in an outer spiral arm, pulsed red. Why is that one different? Kim asked. Velthra adjusted the translation parameters. Text appeared beside the red star. Her skin changed color, a sign of deep distress in her species. The symbol, she whispered. It translates to multiple meanings. The crucible, the forge of titans, the world that tests. The predecessors marked this planet as significant. Significant how? Kim leaned closer to the display. I am running the coordinates now, Velthra said. Her fingers danced across the controls. The comparison took only seconds. When the result appeared, both researchers fell silent. The coordinates matched Earth. Kim stared at the display. That cannot be right. Check again. Velthra ran the comparison 3 more times. The result never changed. The planet the predecessors had marked with warnings and special designation was the human homeworld. We need to report this immediately, Velthra said. Within hours, the discovery reached the Galactic Council headquarters. Within days, an emergency session was called. Representatives from 40 species gathered in the Great Chamber on Unity Station. Chancellor Mordek called the session to order. The ancient Voldarian stood 3 meters tall, his crystalline body refracting the chamber's lights into rainbow patterns. We have confirmed Dr. Velthra's findings, Mordek announced. The predecessors visited the human homeworld. They left extensive records about it. What troubles us is the designation they gave it. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. The same star map Velthra had discovered rotated slowly. The red star pulsed like a warning beacon. The crucible, Mordek continued. According to our translations, the predecessors used this term only 12 times in all their records. 8 of those worlds are dead now, destroyed by stellar events or ecological collapse. 3 others are quarantined due to dangerous predators or toxic environments. Ambassador Ji Woo sat in the human delegation section, confused by the presentation. The young diplomat had only held her position for 6 months. She had no idea why the council seemed so concerned about an ancient map. I do not understand, said Representative Vex of the Chloran Combine. Humans have been part of galactic society for 5 years. We have observed them. They are weak compared to most species. Their technology is primitive. Why would the predecessors mark their world as dangerous? Velthra stepped forward. As the discoverer of the map, she had been invited to present her findings. We found more than just the map, she explained. There were data files attached. The predecessors visited Earth approximately 48,000 years ago. They conducted extensive surveys. I have translated some of their observations. She activated another display. Text scrolled past, too fast for most delegates to read. Velthra highlighted specific passages. Surface gravity 0.3 standard above galactic baseline, she read. Atmospheric oxygen concentration 21%. Extreme fire hazard for most carbon-based life. Tectonic activity severe. Weather patterns violent and unpredictable. Stellar radiation, exposure high, due to magnetic field fluctuations. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. But it gets worse, Velthra continued. The predecessors documented Earth's extinction events. They found evidence of 5 mass extinctions, where most life on the planet died, yet each time, life returned. Stronger, more adaptable, more resilient. 5 extinctions? Thex's voice rose in pitch. And intelligent life? Still evolved? Not just evolved, Velthra said quietly. Thrived. The predecessors observed early humans, Stone Age technology, primitive by any measure. But their observations noted something that frightened them. The chamber fell completely silent. What did they observe? Mordek asked. Velthra pulled up the final passage. The translation appeared in large text above the chamber floor. We observed the bipedal species for 3 solar cycles. They possess no natural armor, no venom, no enhanced strength beyond what their harsh gravity provides, no environmental adaptations beyond efficient cooling and endurance. Yet they survive in every climate on this deadly world. They hunt prey faster and stronger than themselves using only primitive tools and coordination. They care for their injured and weak, reducing individual survival rates but strengthening group bonds. They create art and tell stories even while struggling for basic resources. This world breeds survivors. It forges beings who refuse to give up, who protect their pack, who find joy in hardship. We designate this world the Crucible. Recommendation: approach with extreme caution. If this species ever reaches the stars, they will either save the galaxy or conquer it. There will be no middle path for creatures born in such fire. The silence in the chamber felt heavy, oppressive. 40 species of aliens stared at the human delegation. Ambassador Ji Wu felt their eyes on her. She did not understand why ancient words about her homeworld caused such reaction. Chancellor Mordek finally spoke. We have been treating humans as newcomers, as primitives who stumbled into galactic society. But the predecessors, who were far more advanced than we are now, called their world the Crucible. They left a warning. What kind of warning? Asked Representative Zith, her feathers fluttering with anxiety. They saw potential in humans that we have overlooked, Mordek said. We assumed human behavior was simple ignorance of galactic norms. Their recklessness, their emotional responses, their need to protect others, their refusal to abandon missions, their adoption of alien young. We thought these were flaws. And now? Thex asked. Mordek's crystalline form flickered. Now I wonder if these are not flaws at all. I wonder if these are adaptations, survival traits forged on a world that kills the weak without mercy. I wonder what we have welcomed into our galactic community. Ambassador Ji Wu stood up. Chancellor, I request permission to speak. Granted, Mordek said. I do not know what ancient maps say about my world, Ji Wu said simply. But I know my people. We are not conquerors. We are not dangerous. We are just trying to find our place among the stars. Several delegates looked unconvinced. Others seemed thoughtful. Mordek studied the young human carefully. That, he said slowly, is what concerns me most. You genuinely believe that. The question is, whether the galaxy should fear creatures who survive the Crucible, or trust them. The emergency session ended with no resolution. But every delegate left with the same thought. Humanity was not what they seemed, and the predecessors had known it 50,000 years ago. The council formed a special investigation committee within hours of the emergency session. Chancellor Mordek appointed 12 members from different species, each expert in their field. Their mission was simple but urgent. Find out everything about Earth and determine if humanity posed a threat. Doctor, Velthra joined the committee as their xenolinguistics expert. She spent 3 days translating every predecessor file about Earth. The more she read, the more disturbed she became. Committee member Thrain, a security specialist from the Armored Worlds, called the first briefing. All 12 members gathered in a secure conference room deep inside Unity Station. "We have 6 months of human activity in galactic space to analyze," Thrain said. His thick carapace gleamed under the lights. "We also have the predecessor records. Let us start with the planetary analysis. Dr. Hess, you studied Earth's environment." Dr. Hess was a Florian, a species that evolved on a gentle world with mild seasons and no predators. She looked physically ill as she presented her findings. "Earth is classified as a Class 7 death world," she began. "Only 3 other inhabited planets in Council space have that designation. All 3 have populations under 1 million, all living in controlled biodomes." She pulled up images of Earth. Hurricanes spiraled over oceans. Volcanoes erupted in rings of fire. Ice sheets covered the poles while deserts baked under brutal sun. "Earth's axial tilt creates extreme seasonal variations," Hess continued. "Temperature swings of 30 to 40 degrees are common. The planet has active plate tectonics, causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions regularly. Hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and droughts occur with frightening frequency. Yet 8 billion humans live there," Thrain noted. "Not in biodomes, in open air." "Correct," Hess said. "Which leads to my next point. Human biology is adapted for this environment in ways I find disturbing. Their bodies can regulate temperature through sweating, allowing them to survive in extreme heat. They can build fat reserves for extreme cold. Their bones and muscles are dense, developed under gravity 0.3 higher than standard. This means the average human on a normal gravity world is significantly stronger than our baseline." Another committee member, researcher Plix, raised a tentacle. "What about the oxygen levels?" 21%, Hess said. "For comparison, optimal oxygen for most species is 14 to 16%. Earth's atmosphere would be a fire hazard for most of us, but for humans, it is normal. It gives them incredible endurance. Their bodies are designed to extract and utilize oxygen efficiently." Velthra pulled up her own files. The predecessors documented something they called the extinction pattern. "I found detailed records. 650 million years ago, Earth experienced an ice age that covered the entire planet. Life survived in the oceans. 440 million years ago, massive volcanic eruptions killed most ocean life. Life adapted. 375 million years ago, oceanic oxygen depletion caused another mass death. Life evolved new strategies." She paused, letting the pattern sink in. 250 million years ago, the worst extinction event occurred. 96% of all species died. The predecessors called it the Great Dying. Yet life returned. 66 million years ago, an asteroid impact killed the dominant species and most large animals. Mammals, humanity's ancestors, survived and flourished. 5 apocalypses, Thrain said slowly, and life never gave up. "It explains human behavior," Velthra said. "They evolved in a world that repeatedly tried to kill everything. Only the most adaptable, most resilient, most stubborn survivors passed on their genes. Humanity is the result of 50 million years of selection pressure that would destroy most species." The committee fell silent, absorbing this information. Dr. Hess brought up another display. "I analyzed human disease resistance. Their immune system is extraordinarily aggressive. They co-evolved with countless pathogens, parasites, and viruses. Most humans carry dormant viruses in their bodies that would kill many species, but their immune systems keep them in check." "They are walking biological hazards?" asked Representative Kix, a crystalline being who had no immune system concept. "Not exactly," Hess said. But their disease resistance is far beyond galactic baseline. Remember the Centauri plague outbreak last year? It killed thousands across 12 species. Humans who were exposed showed only mild symptoms or none at all. Their immune systems treated a plague that devastated the galaxy as a minor inconvenience. Committee discussions continued for days. Each expert presented findings that painted a disturbing picture. Humans were not the primitive, weak species the Council had assumed. Behavioral analyst Vorn presented his research on human psychology. I have reviewed every interaction between humans and other species since first contact. I found patterns that trouble me. He showed footage of human soldiers during the Rigel border conflict. While other species maintained safe distances, human medics ran through active combat zones to reach wounded aliens. They carried injured Chicks warriors twice their size to safety. They shielded Florian civilians with their own bodies. At first, I thought this was recklessness, Vorn said. A lack of understanding about danger. But after reviewing the predecessor files, I have a new theory. This is pack bonding behavior, enhanced by evolution on a death world. Explain, Thrain demanded. On Earth, humans were not apex predators, Vorn said. They were persistence hunters. They tracked prey for days, working as coordinated groups. They succeeded not through individual strength, but through cooperation, communication, and refusing to give up. Those who abandoned pack members died out. Those who protected the group, even at personal risk, survived. He showed another video. A human teacher named Min Seo, working at a Cloran school, treating alien children with the same care as human young. The Cloran parents had commented on how strange it was, how humans seemed to adopt any child they encountered. Humans form emotional bonds across species barriers, Vorn continued. They adopt alien young. They risk their lives for strangers. They create found families with beings that share no genetic relationship. This would be illogical behavior on a safe world. But on a death world, where cooperation meant survival, it makes perfect sense. Velthra added her own observations. The predecessors noted this in their ancient reports. They observed humans caring for injured members who could not contribute to the group. From a pure survival standpoint, this is inefficient. But humans did it anyway. The predecessors concluded that this behavior, while seemingly weak, actually made human groups stronger. How? Asked Kix. Because it created loyalty, Velthra said. Every member of a human group knows the others will not abandon them. This creates bonds, stronger than most species form, even within their own families. It creates a willingness to sacrifice for the group. It creates soldiers who will hold defensive lines against impossible odds because they are protecting their pack. Thrain pulled up military records. The humans have been in galactic space for only 5 years. In that time, they have volunteered for 37 missions that other species refused. Toxic environment cleanups, radiation zone surveys, deep space rescue operations, combat deployments to frontier worlds. They volunteer, knowing the danger. Not just soldiers, Velthra added. Human doctors work in quarantine zones. Human engineers repair stations in hazardous conditions. Human teachers work in refugee camps on war-torn worlds. They do not see these as heroic acts. They see them as normal behavior. Eft. The committee reviewed data for 3 weeks. They analyzed human history, biology, psychology, and culture. Every analysis pointed to the same conclusion. Humans were products of the Crucible. Every aspect of their behavior made sense through that lens. Their emotional responses, their pack bonding, their persistence, their refusal to abandon others, their ability to find hope in dark situations. These were not flaws or primitive behaviors. These were refined survival traits from a world that killed the weak. Finally, Thrain called for a vote. We must present findings to the full council. The question is simple. Are humans a threat? Dr. Hess spoke first. Their world should have killed them a dozen times over. Instead, It made them strong. Yes, they are dangerous. Any species that survived the Crucible is dangerous. But are they a threat to us? Thrain pressed. Velthra considered carefully. The predecessors left a prophecy in their files. They said humans would either save the galaxy or conquer it. I believe we are watching them make that choice right now. Every day, they choose cooperation over conquest. They choose protection over domination. Can we trust that choice? Kix asked. Can we afford not to? Vorn countered. They are already here, already integrated into galactic society. The question is whether we treat them as dangerous predators to be contained, or as potential allies forged in fire. The committee prepared their report. In 3 days, they would present to the full council. The full council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives took their seats. Word had spread about the investigation committee's findings. Everyone knew this session would determine humanity's future in galactic society. Ambassador Jiwoo sat in the human delegation section, her hands folded calmly in her lap. Beside her, military liaison Commander Park Taeyang reviewed notes on his datapad. Neither fully understood why the council had spent 3 weeks investigating Earth. Chancellor Mordek called the session to order. Committee Leader Thrain, present your findings. Thrain approached the central podium. His armored form moved with deliberate weight. We have completed our investigation into humanity and Earth. Our findings are disturbing, but not in the way we initially expected. Holographic displays activated throughout the chamber. Images of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. Storms and volcanoes played across the surface. Earth is a Class 7 death world, Thrain stated. The gravity is 0.3 above standard. The oxygen concentration is dangerously high. The planet experiences regular natural disasters that would devastate most civilized worlds. 5 mass extinction events occurred in Earth's history, each killing most life on the planet. 5. Thanks for watching. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Several representatives looked at Jiwoo with new wariness. Yet humans thrive there. Thrain continued. 8 billion of them. They do not live in protective domes or safe zones. They build cities on earthquake fault lines. They farm in floodplains. They inhabit every climate from frozen poles to burning deserts. This would be insane for most species. For humans, it is normal. Dr. Velthra stepped forward to join Thrain. The predecessors observed humanity 48,000 years ago. They left detailed notes about human behavior. At that time, humans had only stone tools. No written language, no agriculture. Yet the predecessors were concerned about them. They noted humanity's pack bonding, their persistence, their refusal to abandon injured members, their ability to cooperate in large groups. She pulled up translated text from the predecessor files. The predecessors wrote, "These beings are forged in the fire of a world that offers no mercy. They will either become the galaxy's greatest protectors or its most terrible conquerors. We cannot predict which path they will choose." Representative Zith of the Avian Confederation stood. Why are we only learning this now? Humans have been in galactic space for 5 years. Because we did not look closely, Mordek admitted. We saw primitive technology and assumed primitive beings. We did not consider that a species could be advanced in ways that do not show in their machines. Behavioral analyst Vorn took the podium. I request permission to show footage from the past 5 years. Granted, Mordek said. The displays changed. Footage began playing from the Rigel border conflict, 2 years prior. The Council had deployed peacekeeping forces to separate 2 warring species. Fighting had been intense. The footage showed a human medical unit under fire. Other species had retreated to safe positions, waiting for the battle to shift. But human medic Corporal Lee Hyunji ran through active combat, reaching a wounded Chix warrior trapped in a collapsed building. She was half the warrior's size, but she dragged him to cover anyway. Enemy fire struck the wall beside her. She never stopped moving. Another video showed Commander Park, the same officer now sitting with the human delegation, organizing the evacuation of a Cloran civilian settlement. When other commanders wanted to abandon the position as too dangerous, Park's unit stayed. They held the line for 6 hours, protecting civilians until transport ships arrived. 3 humans died in that action. 40,000 Cloran civilians survived. More footage played. Human doctor Kim Min-jung, working in a plague quarantine zone on Station Kepler. Other species doctors worked through remote systems, afraid of infection. Kim worked directly with patients, most of them aliens she had never met before. She held dying hands and spoke comfort in languages she barely knew. Human engineer Singh, working in a radiation-damaged reactor core, manually repairing critical systems because the robots had failed. He absorbed enough radiation to require 3 months of medical treatment, but the station survived. Human teacher Sarah, working in a refugee camp, teaching Florian cubs whose parents had died in a war. The cubs adopted her as surrogate family. Sarah learned their language, their customs, their dietary needs. She treated them exactly as she would human children. These are not isolated incidents, Vorn said. This is consistent human behavior. They volunteer for every dangerous mission. They adopt alien young without hesitation. They form emotional bonds across species barriers. They refuse to abandon positions or people. They persist in the face of impossible odds. He turned to face the full council. We interpreted this as recklessness or ignorance. But after studying their evolutionary history, I understand the truth. This is refined survival behavior from a death world. These are adaptations that kept humanity alive through 5 extinction events. Representative Thex stood, his crystalline voice sharp. So they are dangerous. We should increase monitoring. Perhaps limit their expansion. Are they dangerous? Vorn countered. Yes. Any species that survived the crucible is dangerous. But dangerous to whom? Look at the footage again. Every action shows humans protecting others, not threatening them. Jiwoo raised her hand. Chancellor, may I speak? Mordek nodded. The floor recognizes Ambassador Jiwoo. She stood, her small frame drawing every eye in the chamber. I have listened to this presentation with confusion. You speak of my world as if it is a nightmare. You analyze my people as if we are weapons. But I do not see it that way. She gestured to the frozen images still floating in the chamber. Yes. Earth has storms and earthquakes. Yes. We have known hunger and disease and death. But we have also known beauty, music and art and love. We tell stories around fires. We celebrate births. We mourn losses together. We are not weapons forged in fire. We are people who learn to find joy, even in hardship. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. Velthra watched Jiwoo carefully, seeing the predecessor prophecy playing out in real time. You show footage of humans helping others, Jiwoo continued. You act surprised by this. But why? Is it so strange that we would help those in need? On Earth, we have a saying. We are all in this together. If someone falls, you help them up. If someone is hungry, you share food. If someone is in danger, you protect them. This is not death world behavior. This is just being decent. But that is exactly the point. Velthra said softly. Most species only extend that decency to their own kind. Humans extend it to everyone. Jiwoo looked at the xenolinguist. Is that not normal? No, Velthra said. It is extraordinary. I have studied 300 civilizations across galactic history. Only 2 showed the level of cross-species. Empathy humans display naturally. Both were species the predecessors specifically noted as special. Commander Park stood beside Jiwoo. If I may add something, Chancellor, I commanded forces during the Rigel conflict. I lost 3 soldiers holding that defensive line. I knew they might die. They knew it too. But we stayed because 40,000 civilians needed protection. Not human civilians. Cloran civilians. We had met them only days before. Why did you stay? Thrain asked. Park looked surprised by the question. Because they needed help. Because we could provide it. Because that is what soldiers do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. Even if they are not your species? Thrain pressed. Species does not matter. Park said simply. They were people in danger. That is enough. The chamber fell silent. Representatives looked at each other, processing the human perspective. Dr. Hess spoke up. I believe this is what the predecessors meant. Humans do not see themselves as separate from the galactic community. They see all of us as their pack, their family, their responsibility. That is terrifying, Representative Kix said. Why? Jiwoo asked, genuinely confused. Because you are products of a death world, Kix explained. Your biology, your psychology, everything about you is optimized for survival in harsh conditions. You are stronger, more resilient, more persistent than most species. And you have decided that everyone in the galaxy is your responsibility to protect. Is that bad? Jiwoo asked. Velthra stood. It depends on perspective. To some, it looks like predators claiming territory. To others, it looks like guardians accepting duty. Mordek raised his hand for silence. The committee has presented their findings. Now the council must decide. How do we respond to humanity? No. Thex spoke first. I propose increased monitoring. Regular inspections of human colonies. Limits on their military expansion. I oppose, said Representative Gix of the Merchant Alliance. Humans have committed no crimes. They have violated no treaties. Punishing them for their evolutionary history is unjust. I propose partnership, Velthra said. The predecessors predicted humans would either save the galaxy or conquer it. I believe they are choosing to save it. Every day, through every small action, they choose cooperation and protection. We should encourage that choice, not punish it. Debate erupted throughout the chamber. Some representatives wanted strict controls on humanity. Others argued for full integration. Still others wanted to study humans further before deciding. Jiwoo watched the chaos with growing understanding. The council was afraid of her people. Not because humans had done anything wrong, but because of what they could potentially do. She thought about her home. Earth, with its storms and earthquakes and endless challenges. She thought about her ancestors, surviving ice ages and plagues and extinctions. She thought about the human spirit. The refusal to give up. The drive to protect others. The predecessors had called Earth the Crucible, a place that forged either heroes or villains. Jiwoo made a silent promise. Humanity would prove themselves worthy of trust. They would show the galaxy that survivors could also be protectors. The debate continued for hours. No decision was reached. But everyone knew that humanity's true test was just beginning. The emergency alert screamed through Unity Station at 0300 hours, Galactic Standard Time. Ambassador Jiwoo jerked awake in her quarters, her heart racing. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. Her communicator buzzed. Chancellor Mordek's voice came through, strained and urgent. All council representatives to the emergency chamber immediately. We are under attack. Jiwoo dressed quickly and ran through the corridors. Other ambassadors rushed alongside her, speaking in dozens of languages. Fear filled the air, like smoke. The emergency chamber was chaos. Displays showed space battles raging across 3 sectors. The Kuresh Empire, a militant civilization from beyond Council space, had launched a coordinated strike against core worlds. Status report, Mordek demanded. Military Coordinator Vex pulled up tactical displays. 30 Kuresh battle groups hit us simultaneously. They targeted our most populated worlds. Chlora, Voldar Prime, the Florian homeworld. Casualties are already in the millions. Jiwoo's blood ran cold. How did they get through our defenses? They used a bioweapon, Dr. Hess said, her voice shaking. Some kind of engineered plague. It spreads through air and water. Incubation is only hours. Symptoms include paralysis, respiratory failure, and neurological breakdown. Mortality rate is 90% for most species. Representative Zith collapsed in her seat. The Florian homeworld. My family is there. All fleet movements have stopped, Vex continued. 70% of our military personnel are infected or caring for infected crew members. Station Kepler is completely offline. Unity Station has quarantine protocols active, but we already have cases reported. Mordek's crystalline form flickered with distress. How long until the creche reach Council core systems? 48 hours, Vex said. Maybe less. We have no functional fleets to stop them. Representative Thex stood. We must evacuate. Move the Council to secure locations. And abandon billions of citizens? Gix demanded. We cannot run. We have no choice, Thex said. The plague has crippled us. We cannot fight. Jiwoo's communicator buzzed again. She checked the message and went very still. Ambassador Jiwoo? Mordek noticed her expression. What is it? Message from Earth Fleet Command, she said quietly. They are mobilizing all available forces. Estimated arrival at Florian homeworld in 18 hours. The chamber fell silent. Humans are immune? Dr. Hess asked. Apparently, Jiwoo said. She pulled up the full message. Earth medical teams analyze the bioweapon. It targets specific neural pathways common to most galactic species. Humans have different neural architecture. We can carry the disease but show no symptoms. Then humanity could spread it further, Thex said. Or they could operate in infected zones where no one else can, Velthra said softly. Commander Park entered the chamber, already in combat armor. Chancellor, Earth is committing its full military to galactic defense. All 12 fleet groups. Every combat-ready ship. We have orders to protect Council worlds by any means necessary. Why? Mordek asked. Your species is safe from this plague. You could retreat to Earth and wait for this to pass. Park looked at him as if the question made no sense. Because people need help. Because we can provide it. That is enough. And, within hours, human ships began arriving in infected systems. They moved with purpose and speed, coordinating with the few remaining functional Council forces. On the Florian homeworld, human Marines deployed directly into quarantine zones. They wore full environmental suits, not because they feared infection, but to avoid spreading it further. Sergeant Kim Jae-won led his squad through the streets of Petal City, the Florian capital. Bodies lay in the streets. Living Florians, huddled in homes, too weak to move. The plague had hit fast and hard. Medical infrastructure had collapsed within hours. Command, this is Sergeant Kim, he reported. City is devastated. Estimate 80% infection rate. We need immediate medical deployment. Copy that, Sergeant. Medical teams are inbound. Begin triage. Kim's squad moved through the city, marking buildings by infection severity. They carried Florian civilians too weak to walk. They distributed water and basic supplies. They worked for 16 hours straight without rest. Human medical ships entered orbit. Dr. Park Min-ji led a trauma team into the largest hospital. Most Florian doctors were infected and dying. Those still conscious tried to warn the humans away. Too dangerous, one Florian doctor wheezed. You should not be here. We are immune, Min-ji said gently. She checked the doctor's vitals. Advanced stage infection. Hours left at most. You focus on resting. We will handle this. The human medical teams worked with practiced efficiency. They had trained for pandemic response since before joining galactic society. Earth's history of plagues and diseases had taught humanity hard lessons about crisis medicine. Min-ji moved through the wards, treating patients. Most were too far gone to save. But some had been infected recently. Those could still recover with the right treatment. We need to synthesize antibodies, she told her team. Our immune systems can fight this. We can use our blood to create treatments. Human medics began donating blood. The process was simple, but effective. Human antibodies attacked the bioweapons proteins. It was not a cure, but it bought time. On Voldar Prime, human engineer Lee Min-jun worked to restore power to failing hospitals. The crystalline Voldarians could not survive long without their environmental systems. The plague had infected the engineers, who maintained critical infrastructure. Min-jun climbed through access tunnels, rerouting power manually. His approach was crude compared to Voldarian technology, but it worked. Lights flickered on in hospital wings. Life support systems hummed back to life. "This is not elegant," he muttered to himself. "But my grandmother always said, the best solution is the one that works." At Unity Station, human security teams maintained quarantine protocols. They delivered food to isolated sections. They calmed panicking civilians. They worked 18-hour shifts without complaint. Young security officer Choi Yeon-soo helped evacuate a Cloran family from their quarters. The parents were infected, delirious with fever. Their 3 cubs huddled together, crying in fear. "It is okay," Yeon-soo said softly. She had learned basic Cloran specifically for her posting. "We will take care of them. You are going to medical. Your children will be safe." The Cloran mother grabbed Yeon-soo's hand with surprising strength. "I promise," Yeon-soo said. "They are pack now. We protect our pack." The mother's grip loosened as medics took her to treatment. Yeon-soo scooped up the 3 cubs. They were frightened and alone. She held them close, making soothing sounds. "You are going to stay with me," she told them, "until your parents recover. I will keep you safe." The cubs pressed against her, seeking warmth and comfort. Yeon-soo carried them to temporary quarters, already planning how to care for them. Dietary needs, sleep schedules, educational activities. She had younger siblings back on Earth. Cubs were not so different from human children. In space, human fleets engaged the Kuresh Armada. The battles were brutal. Kuresh ships outnumbered human vessels 3-1, but human crews fought with desperate determination. Captain Nam Soo-jin commanded the destroyer Morning Star. Her ship took heavy fire, protecting a civilian evacuation convoy. "Shields at 30%, her tactical officer reported. "Hull breaches on decks 4 and 5. "Maintain position," Soo-jin ordered. "Those transports need 5 more minutes." "Captain, we cannot take much more." "Then we hold for 5 minutes." Morning Star shuddered under another impact. Alarms screamed. Crew members worked frantically to keep systems operational. No one suggested retreat. The last transport cleared the combat zone. Soo-jin allowed herself a brief smile. "All ships, fall back to defensive positions. Let them chase us away from the civilians." Human ships withdrew in good order, drawing Kuresh forces away from population centers. They took damage, lost ships, suffered casualties, but they never stopped fighting. On the surface of Clora, human ground forces held defensive positions around refugee centers. The Kresh had deployed ground troops, intending to take the planet intact, but they had not expected resistance. Lieutenant Park Sung-ho dug in with his platoon at a river crossing. 3,000 Cloran civilians sheltered in caves behind them. Kuresh forces were advancing. "Sir, we are outnumbered 20-1, his sergeant said. "Then we need to make every shot count," Sung-ho replied. "They are not getting past this bridge." The battle lasted 6 hours. Human soldiers used terrain advantage, coordinated fire, and sheer stubbornness. They called artillery on their own positions when enemies got too close. They dragged wounded aliens to cover between firefights. They refused to retreat. When relief forces finally arrived, only 12 of 40 human soldiers were still combat effective. But the Kuresh had been stopped. 3,000 civilians survived. Back at Unity Station, Mordek watched reports flood in from across the galaxy. Everywhere humans deployed, they made a difference. Not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through determination and sacrifice. They are dying for us, Velthra said quietly. She stood beside Mordek, monitoring the casualty reports. Human losses were mounting. Hundreds dead. Thousands injured. Yes, Mordek said. They are. Why? Representative Thex asked. He had watched human forces save Cloran civilians while taking devastating losses. Why would they sacrifice so much for species they barely know? Jiwoo stood nearby, listening to reports from Earthfleet Command. She heard the question and turned to face the council. Because that is what you do, she said simply. When someone needs help, you help them. When someone is in danger, you protect them. It does not matter if they are human or alien. It does not matter if you have known them for years or minutes. They are people. That is enough. Mordek understood then. The predecessors had been right. Earth had forged humanity in fire. But humans had chosen what kind of fire-forged beings they would become. Not conquerors. Protectors. The battle for the galaxy continued. But for the first time since the Kresh attacked, the Council had hope. 3 weeks after the Kresh attack began, the tide finally turned. Human medical teams had synthesized an effective treatment using their own antibodies. The plague still killed, but the mortality rate dropped from 90% to 30%. Patients who received treatment early survived. Human military forces had stopped the Kuresh advance across 14 star systems. Not through overwhelming power, but through tactical brilliance and absolute refusal to retreat. They held every defensive line until Council forces could recover. Engineer Lee Min-jun sat in a hospital on Voldar Prime, exhausted but satisfied. He had spent 22 days restoring power infrastructure across the planet. His hands were scarred from electrical burns. His body ached from climbing through access tunnels. But the hospitals had power. The environmental systems functioned. Voldarian civilians survived. A young Voldarian approached him, her crystalline form refracting the afternoon light into rainbow patterns. She held something in her hands. Human engineer, she said in careful galactic standard. My family wishes to thank you. You saved my mother's life when you restored power to North District Hospital. Min-jun accepted the gift. It was a small crystal sculpture, shaped like a star. You did not need to do this. Yes, we did, the young Voldarian said. You came to our world when we were dying. You worked without rest. You asked for nothing. My people will remember. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On Clora, human soldiers who had held defensive lines received visits from the civilians they had protected. Families brought food, gifts, and tearful gratitude. Many soldiers adopted Cloran cubs whose parents had died in the fighting, extending their protection beyond the battlefield. On the Florian homeworld, Dr. Park Minji walked through recovering wards. Florian patients, who had been at death's door 3 weeks ago, now sat up in bed. Weak, but alive. They called out to her as she passed, thanking her in their musical language. One elderly Florian grabbed her hand. Why did you do this? We are not your people. No. Inside. Minji smiled gently. You needed help. I could provide it. That makes you my people. At Unity Station, Chancellor Mordek called an emergency session of the full council. Every representative attended, even those still recovering from illness. The chamber buzzed with tension and anticipation. The crisis is not over, Mordek began. But we have survived the worst. Casualty numbers are still being compiled. Preliminary estimates suggest 12 million dead across council space. Without human intervention, that number would have been in the billions. He paused, letting that sink in. The question before us now is simple. What is humanity's place in galactic society? Representative Zith stood. 3 weeks ago, she had wanted strict controls on humans. Now her voice shook with emotion. I was wrong. I feared humans because I did not understand them. The predecessor files showed us a species forged in harsh conditions. I thought that meant they would be harsh themselves. But I was on the Florian homeworld when human Marines arrived. I watched Sergeant Kim's squad work for 72 hours without sleep, carrying my people to safety. I watched them treat Florian civilians with the same care they would show their own families. She looked directly at Jiwoo. My niece survived because a human medic named Sarah gave her own blood for antibody treatment. Sarah donated 6 times in 1 week, pushing herself to dangerous limits. When I asked why, she said my niece reminded her of her daughter back on Earth. She could not save every child, but she could save that one. Other representatives spoke up, sharing similar stories. The Cloran delegate described how Lieutenant Park's platoon had defended refugee centers against impossible odds. The Voldarian representative talked about engineers working in radiation-damaged zones that would have killed most species. The Florian ambassador recounted medical teams treating patients with gentle compassion even as human casualties mounted. Dr. Velthra approached the podium. I discovered the predecessor files about Earth. I translated their warnings about the Crucible. I spent weeks afraid of what humanity might become, but the predecessors left us a prophecy, not a predetermined fate. They said humans would either save the galaxy or conquer it. In these past 3 weeks, humanity made their choice. She pulled up the ancient predecessor text, the same passage that had started this entire crisis. If this species ever reaches the stars, they will either save the galaxy or conquer it. She read aloud. There will be no middle path for creatures born in such fire. Velthra looked around the chamber. The predecessors were correct. Humans chose to save us, not just once, but repeatedly. Every doctor who entered a quarantine zone, every soldier who held an impossible defensive line, every engineer who worked past exhaustion, every civilian who opened their homes to orphaned alien children. Each one chose to protect rather than conquer. Ambassador Jiwoo sat quietly, listening to representatives praise her species. It felt strange. Humans had simply done what needed doing. The idea that this was extraordinary rather than expected confused her. Commander Park leaned over and whispered, "They really do not understand us, do they?" "No," Jiwoo whispered back. "They think we are heroes. We are just being decent." Chancellor Mordek raised his hand for silence. The committee spent 3 weeks investigating humanity before the Kuresh attack. They compiled extensive data about human biology, psychology, and culture. But data cannot capture what we witnessed in this crisis. Numbers cannot measure courage or compassion. Statistics cannot quantify the human spirit. He turned to face Jiwoo directly. The predecessors gave Earth a designation. The Crucible. The Forge of Titans. A world that tested every living thing and forged survivors from fire. But I believe they missed something important. Yes, Earth created survivors, but it also created a culture that values cooperation over competition, protection over domination, compassion over cruelty. Mordek's crystalline form pulsed with light, a sign of deep emotion in his species. I propose that we give humanity a new designation, not the Crucible. That describes the world, not its people. I propose we officially name Earth as the Guardian's Cradle, the world that forges protectors. The chamber erupted in voices. Some representatives supported the motion immediately. Others debated the implications. But the tone had shifted. 3 weeks ago, the council had debated whether to restrict humanity. Now, they debated how to honor them. Representative Thex, who had been humanity's harshest critic, stood. I support this designation. But I have a proposal to add. If Earth is the Guardian's Cradle, then humanity should take a central role in galactic defense. They have proven themselves in crisis. We should formalize that role. What are you suggesting? Asked Representative Gix. That we offer humanity leadership positions in Council security forces, Thex said. That we request their expertise in crisis response, medical emergency protocols, and defensive strategy. That we acknowledge what we all witnessed. When the galaxy faced extinction, humanity stood between us and death. Jiwoo stood suddenly. All eyes turned to her. "Chancellor, may I speak?" she asked. "The floor recognizes Ambassador Jiwoo." She took a deep breath. "I am honored by your words. Truly. My people will be proud to know the galaxy thinks so highly of us. But I must be honest about something. We did not save you because we are special. We did not protect you because we are forged from some mystical fire. We did it because it was the right thing to do." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of species. "Earth taught us many lessons. Yes, we learned to survive. We learned to persist through hardship. We learned to adapt and overcome. But the most important lesson Earth taught us is this: survival means nothing if you survive alone. On our world, the species that succeeded were the ones that cooperated, that protected their young and their weak, that formed communities and supported each other." Jiwoo gestured to the displays still showing casualty reports and recovery statistics. "You want to give us leadership positions in galactic defense. You want to honor us as guardians. I accept, but with conditions." The chamber fell silent. "If humanity takes a role in protecting the galaxy, it cannot be humanity alone. You must also help us lift up other struggling species." The predecessors marked 12 worlds with special designations. 8 of them are dead or dying. 3 are quarantined. Earth is the only one that reached the stars. That is not because we are special. It is because we were lucky. She thought about Earth's history, the near misses, the disasters that could have ended humanity but did not. The thin margin between survival and extinction. Somewhere in this galaxy, there is another world like Earth. Another species struggling against harsh conditions, wondering if they will ever see the stars. Find them. Help them. Give them the chance we had. Because that is what guardians do. They do not just protect the strong, they lift up the weak. Velthra approached Jiwoo. "You are saying that humanity will only accept guardian status if the Council commits to helping developing species?" "Yes," Jiwoo said firmly. "Because that is the lesson our world taught us. We are all in this together. Every species, every world. We rise together or we fall together." Mordek's form pulsed with approval. "A wise condition. I believe the predecessors would be pleased. They predicted humanity would save the galaxy or conquer it. You have chosen a third path. Save the galaxy by teaching us to save each other." The vote was called. The motion passed unanimously. Earth would officially be designated the Guardian's Cradle. Humanity would take leadership roles in Council security and emergency response, and the Council would commit resources to finding and helping other struggling species reach the stars. 3 days later, Jiwoo stood in the observation deck of Unity Station, looking at the stars. Velthra joined her. "What are you thinking about?" the xenolinguist asked. "The predecessors," Jiwoo said. "They observed my ancestors 50,000 years ago. Stone Age humans. Barely surviving. They predicted we would either save the galaxy or destroy it." "They were right," Velthra said. "Were they?" Jiwoo asked. "I think they missed something important. They saw the choice as binary. Save or destroy. Protect or conquer. But there is a third option. Partner. Cooperate. Build together." She turned to face Velthra. "Earth did not make us guardians. It made us survivors who learned that survival requires community. The choice was never between being protectors or conquerors. The choice was between isolation and connection." Velthra was quiet for a long moment. The predecessor prophecy has been fulfilled. But not the way they expected. No. Jiwoo agreed. "We did not save the galaxy by being warriors. We saved it by being family." Across Unity Station, human soldiers, doctors, and engineers prepared to deploy to new assignments. They would train Council forces in crisis response. They would work alongside alien medical teams. They would help search for other struggling species in the recovered wards of hospitals across a dozen worlds. Orphaned alien children slept in the arms of human caretakers who had adopted them without question. On Earth, communities prepared to welcome refugees from the HFY War. The galaxy had faced extinction and survived. Not because of superior technology or overwhelming force, but because one species from a harsh world had chosen compassion over conquest, had chosen to extend pack bonds to every species they encountered, had chosen to protect rather than dominate. The Crucible had forged humanity in fire. But humanity had chosen what they would become. Not conquerors, not even guardians, standing separate and alone. They chose to be family, and in doing so, they transformed the entire galaxy. In her quarters, Jiwoo made a call to Earth. Her mother's face appeared on the screen, smiling. "I saw the news," her mother said. "The Guardian's Cradle. Your father would have loved that designation." "We just did what needed doing," Jiwoo said. Her mother laughed. "That is the most human thing you could possibly say. The entire galaxy thinks you are heroes, and you think you just did your job." "We did," Jiwoo protested. "I know," her mother said warmly. "That is why they are right to call you guardians, because you do not see it as special. You see it as normal. That is the real gift Earth gave us. Not the ability to survive. The inability to walk past someone who needs help." Jiwoo smiled. Her mother was right. Earth had not just forged survivors. It had forged a species incapable of abandonment, incapable of watching others suffer without acting, incapable of drawing lines between us and them. The predecessors had marked Earth as the Crucible 50,000 years ago. They had known something special would emerge from that harsh world. They had predicted a binary choice between salvation and destruction, but they had underestimated the human heart. The capacity for compassion that could survive even extinction events. The stubborn insistence that everyone deserved help, protection, and dignity. The galaxy had learned Earth's true name. And in learning it, they had discovered their own capacity for connection. The children of the Crucible had not conquered the stars. They had invited the entire galaxy to become family, and the galaxy, grateful and humbled, accepted.